The ultimatum captain, Alina Vasquez, stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the impossible sight that filled Earth's sky. Thousands of alien ships hung in perfect formation above every major city on the planet. Each vessel was the size of a mountain, their dark metal surfaces gleaming with weapons that could crack continents. The stellar hegemony had arrived, and they had brought enough firepower to glass 100 worlds. Alina had been a naval officer for 15 years, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. The bridge crew worked, intense. Silence, their hands steady despite the fear in their eyes. Everyone knew what was coming. The hegemony didn't negotiate. They conquered. The communication array crackled to life. Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes looked up from his station, his face pale. "Captain, incoming transmission from the flagship. It's massive, ma'am. The ship is over 50 kilometers long." Alina straightened her uniform and faced the main screen. "Put it through, Commander Hayes." The screen flickered, then displayed something that made several crew members gasp. The being that appeared was unlike anything in Earth's databases. Supreme Chancellor Vorthok stood 3 meters tall, with skin that looked like living obsidian, and 6 arms that ended in razor-sharp claws. His eyes burned with an inner fire that seemed to look directly into Elena's soul. "Humans of the third planet," Vorthok's voice resonated with the power of thunder. "I am Supreme Chancellor Vorthok, voice of the stellar hegemony. We rule over 12,000 star systems and 47 billion worlds. Today, we offer you the honor of joining our empire." Alina felt her jaw clench. She had studied the hegemony's history. Their honor meant slavery for 90% of humanity and strip mining Earth until it was a dead rock. Vorthok continued, his burning eyes never blinking. "You will surrender 60% of your planetary resources immediately. 40% of your population will be relocated to industrial worlds to serve the hegemony's needs. Your military will be disbanded and your leaders will be replaced by our governors. In return, we will permit your species to continue existing." The alien paused, and Alina could hear the collective intake of breath from her bridge crew. The entire planet was watching this transmission. "You have 12 standard hours to provide your answer," Vorthok concluded. "Choose wisely. The hegemony has never been refused, and worlds that resist us become examples for others." The screen went dark. Alina stood in the silence that followed, her mind racing. 12 hours to decide the fate of humanity. 12 hours to choose between slavery and extinction. "Captain," Communications Officer Lisa Park spoke quietly. "We're receiving a priority signal from the Global Defense Council. President Chen wants to address the fleet commanders immediately." 20 minutes later, Alina sat in the secure conference room of the lunar station. Along with every major military leader on Earth, President Marcus Chen looked older than his. 55 years, the weight of 8 billion lives visible in every line on his face. Defense Secretary Amanda Rodriguez sat beside him, her expression grim. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Chen began, his voice steady despite the circumstances, "you've all heard the hegemony's offer. I want to know our military capabilities." General Patricia Stone, head of the Global Defense Force, activated a holographic display. "Mr. President, the honest assessment is that we cannot win a conventional war. Their smallest ships outgun our largest vessels 10 to 1. They have orbital bombardment capability that could sterilize our planet in hours." However, Dr. Sarah Mitchell interrupted from her seat at the Science Council table. We may have options they don't know about. All eyes turned to the brilliant physicist who had been Earth's leading expert on quantum mechanics for the past decade. She had been working on classified projects that even most world leaders knew nothing about. Explain, Dr. Mitchell. President Chen requested. Sarah stood and activated her own holographic display. For the past 20 years, following the first detection of hegemony scouts in our outer system, we've been developing something we call the quantum isolation field. It's a defensive barrier that can seal our entire solar system. Admiral James Carter, commander of the Space Defense Network, leaned forward. What kind of barrier? Imagine a bubble of altered space-time around our solar system, Sarah explained. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. No ships, no communications, no energy, weapons. It would make us completely isolated from the galaxy. That sounds like a prison, General Stone observed. Or a fortress, President Chen replied quietly. He studied the data streaming across Sarah's display. How long could we maintain this field? Theoretically, indefinitely. The field draws power from quantum fluctuations in space itself. But Mr. President, there's something else. Our computer models suggest that activating the field might have unexpected effects on hegemony technology. Defense Secretary Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. What kind of effects? The hegemony's technology appears to be based on quantum entanglement networks that span their entire empire. If we isolate our solar system from normal space-time, it might disrupt their systems on a galactic scale. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Alina felt her heart racing. They were talking about cutting Earth off from the galaxy forever, but in doing so, they might wound the hegemony in ways no one could predict. President Chen looked around the room at each face. These people had served Earth faithfully, and now they were being asked to make the most important decision in human history. Dr. Mitchell, can the field be reversed if we change our minds? Yes, Mr. President, but only from our side. Once activated, we control whether the barrier stays up or comes down. General Stone spoke up. Sir, if we activate this field, we're betting everything on untested technology. If it fails, the hegemony will destroy us for certain. And if we surrender, Alina found herself saying, they'll destroy us slowly over generations. President Chen nodded. Captain Vasquez is right. I've studied the hegemony's history. They don't allow conquered species to maintain their culture, their freedom, or even their dignity. Surrender means the death of everything that makes us human. Admiral Carter crossed his arms. So we're talking about choosing isolation over extinction? No, President Chen said firmly. We're talking about choosing freedom over slavery, no matter the cost. The president stood and looked out through the lunar station's viewport at the blue marble of Earth hanging in space. The hegemony ships were visible even from this distance, dark spots against Earth's daylight side. I want every department head to give me their honest assessment. Can we survive in isolation? Can we maintain our technology, our society, our hope for the future if we're cut off from the stars? Dr. Mitchell spoke first. Our industrial capacity is sufficient for a closed system. We have the technology to maintain our civilization indefinitely. General Stone added, our food production can support our population. We have mineral resources in the asteroid belt and on Luna. What about morale? President Chen asked. What happens to humanity's spirit if we're trapped in our own solar system? Alina stood up. Mr. President, I think you're asking the wrong question. It's not about whether we can survive in isolation. It's about whether we can survive the loss of our freedom. Every human in this room knows the answer to that. The room buzzed with quiet agreement. These were people who had dedicated their lives to protecting human independence. The choice, when put that way, was obvious. President Chen checked his chronometer. We have 8 hours left to give the hegemony our answer. I want all systems checked and ready. Dr. Mitchell, how long do you need to activate the quantum isolation field? 30 minutes from the order, Mr. President. Then we wait until the last possible moment. I want to address the planet first. Humanity deserves to know what we're choosing and why. 4 hours later, President Chen stood before the cameras in the Global Defense Council chamber. Every human on Earth was watching, as well as countless beings across the hegemony's empire, who had intercepted the transmission. My fellow humans, he began, today we face the greatest challenge in our species' history. The stellar hegemony has offered us a choice between submission and destruction. They believe these are our only options because this is how every other species has responded to their ultimatum. The president paused, looking directly into the camera. But humanity has never been like every other species. We have explored every continent on our world, climbed every mountain, crossed every ocean. We have split the atom and walked on our moon. We have created art that moves the soul and science that moves the stars. His voice grew stronger. Today, I tell the hegemony that they have underestimated us. We choose neither submission nor destruction. We choose a third option that they cannot comprehend. We choose freedom. Alina watched from the bridge of the Defiant as president. Chen's words reached every corner of the earth. She could see the resolve building in her crew's faces. This wasn't about military strategy anymore. This was about who humanity chose to be. Effective immediately, President Chen continued, Earth is activating its deepest defenses. We will seal our solar system and stand alone until the galaxy learns that some things are worth any sacrifice. Freedom is one of those things. The transmission ended, and Alina felt the bridge crew looking to her for orders. She activated the ship's communication system to address not just her crew, but all of Earth's defenders. This is Captain Vasquez to all Earth Defense Forces. In 30 minutes, our world changes forever. We will be alone among the stars, but we will be free. Every human who has ever lived, every child who will ever be born, will know that their ancestors chose liberty over life itself. As she spoke, Alina could see the hegemony fleet beginning to move. Vorthok had received Earth's answer, and he was positioning his ships for bombardment, but it was too late for the hegemony. Earth had made its choice. Dr. Mitchell, President Chen's voice came through the command frequency. Activate the quantum isolation field, now. Across Earth's surface, massive installations that had been built in secret over 20 years suddenly hummed to life. Quantum generators hidden in the ocean depths, in mountain ranges, and in orbital platforms began drawing power directly from the fabric of space itself. Alina felt that moment of activation as a strange tingling in the air. On her instruments, the stars suddenly looked different. The hegemony fleet, which had been approaching Earth at high speed, simply vanished as if they had never existed. Field is stable, Dr. Mitchell reported from her control station. We are completely isolated. From normal space, the hegemony cannot reach us now. But something unexpected happened. As the quantum isolation field stabilized around Earth's solar system, energy readings spiked across the galaxy. The quantum networks that connected every hegemony world, every ship, every communication system, flickered and went dark for several seconds. On the bridge of his flagship, Supreme Chancellor Vorthok staggered as his ship's systems failed around him. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he felt something he had forgotten existed. Fear. These humans had done something impossible. They had wounded the hegemony itself. Alina stood on her bridge, looking out at stars that now seemed strangely distant. Earth had shut its gates to the galaxy, choosing isolation over surrender. But as reports came in from their long-range sensors, she realized that their defiance had done something unprecedented. Across the hegemony's 12,000 star systems, worlds that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly found their masters. Control systems failing, the quantum networks that enforced obedience were disrupted. For the first time in millennia, the conquered peoples of the galaxy began to remember what freedom felt like. Earth had chosen to stand alone, but in doing so, they had lit a fire that would burn across the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. The ripple effect. 3 months had passed since Earth sealed itself away from the galaxy. Commander Jake Thompson floated in the darkness of space, his stealth suit making him invisible to any sensors that might be looking. His target lay ahead, a massive hegemony listening post that was trying to probe Earth's quantum barrier. The post was a kilometer-long structure, bristling with sensor arrays and communication equipment. Under normal circumstances, it would have been suicide for a single human to approach such a facility. But these weren't normal circumstances anymore. Jake activated his suit's infiltration systems. Human technology had advanced rapidly during their isolation, freed from the need to conform to galactic standards. His stealth capabilities were based on quantum phase shifting, making him exist slightly outside normal space-time. To hegemony sensors, he simply wasn't there. Phantom Leader to base, he whispered into his communicator. "I'm at the target." Beginning infiltration. Back on Earth, Captain Alina Vasquez monitored the mission from the new Quantum Command Center. The facility had been built inside a mountain in Colorado, its walls lined with the same quantum field generators that protected their solar system. Copy, Phantom Leader. Remember, we need their communication logs intact. Intelligence believes they contain coordination data for other hegemony operations. Jake slipped through the listening post's hull using a quantum phase cutter. The technology allowed him to temporarily shift matter out of phase, creating doorways that sealed themselves behind him. Inside, he found corridors filled with strange alien atmosphere, but his suit provided perfect life support. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Normally, a hegemony facility would be buzzing with activity. Instead, emergency lights cast eerie shadows while most systems ran on backup power. Jake moved through empty corridors toward the central computer core, in a control room overlooking banks of quantum computers. Jake found what he was looking for. The facility's main database contained petabytes of intercepted communications from across the galaxy. But as he began downloading the data, he discovered something that made his blood run cold. "Base, you need to see this. The hegemony isn't just having technical problems. Their entire empire is falling apart." Alina leaned forward in her command. "Chair, explain, Phantom Leader." The quantum disruption from our isolation field didn't just affect their local systems. It cascaded across their entire network. Worlds that have been enslaved for centuries are in open revolt. The hegemony is fighting wars on thousands of fronts. Jake continued uploading data while he spoke. "Base, there's something else. They're calling it the Soul Virus. They think our isolation field created some kind of quantum infection that's spreading through their technology. Alina felt her heart racing. Earth's desperate act of defiance had apparently done far more damage than anyone had imagined. "Get that data and get out, Commander. We need to analyze this immediately." While Jake completed his mission, engineer Lisa Rodriguez worked in her laboratory, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The facility was one of dozens that had been constructed during Earth's isolation, each dedicated to pushing human technology beyond its previous limits. Lisa stared at her latest creation, a quantum resonance weapon small enough to fit in her hand, yet powerful enough to disrupt hegemony ship systems from 100 kilometers away. The device used principles that Earth's scientists had discovered by studying their own isolation field. "Computer, run Simulation 17. She commanded. The holographic display showed her weapon's effects on a typical hegemony cruiser. The quantum resonance would cause cascading failures throughout the ship's systems, leaving it helpless but intact. It was a perfect capture weapon. Dr. Rodriguez, her assistant, Dr. Michael Chang, entered the lab carrying a datapad. "You need to see the intelligence reports from Commander Thompson's mission." Lisa read through Jake's findings, her excitement growing with each page. "Michael, if this data is accurate, the hegemony's control systems are more fragile than we thought. Their entire empire depends on quantum entanglement networks that our isolation field has destabilized." She turned back to her weapon design. "We need to think bigger. Instead of just disrupting individual ships, what if we could target their entire command structure? Halfway across the galaxy, on a world called Zephyros Prime, an alien named Kethva read the intercepted Earth transmission for the 100th time. The message had been broadcast throughout hegemony space 3 months ago, when the humans had announced their defiance. Kethva belonged to the Zephorian species, tall beings with crystalline skin that could change color with their emotions. His people had been conquered by the hegemony 200 years ago and had been forced to mine quantum crystals that powered hegemony technology. But since the Soul event, as the humans' isolation had come to be known, things had changed. The hegemony's control systems kept failing. Guards would find their weapons non-functional. Communication networks would go dark for hours. Most importantly, the neural compliance chips that kept enslaved species obedient had begun malfunctioning. "Brothers and sisters," Kethva addressed a gathering of Zephyrian workers in the deep mine tunnels. "The humans have shown us something we had forgotten. Resistance is possible." His skin shifted to a brilliant gold, the color of hope among his people. "For 3 months, the hegemony has struggled to maintain control of their own technology. Their ships malfunction, their weapons fail, their communications collapse. This is our moment." Elder Zephyr, the oldest Zephyrian in the mines, raised a crystalline hand. But Kethva, the humans, sealed themselves away. They chose isolation over freedom. "How does that help us?" "Don't you see?" Kethva's skin flashed with excitement. "They didn't seal themselves away from the galaxy. They sealed the hegemony away from their world. There's a difference. The humans are still out there, still fighting. Their stealth ships have been spotted near hegemony outposts. They haven't given up. They've just changed the rules of war." That night, Zephyrian workers across the planet began sabotaging hegemony equipment. It started small, mining equipment that mysteriously broke down, transport systems that developed inexplicable faults, communication arrays that transmitted static instead of orders. Within a week, Zephyros Prime was in open revolt. The hegemony garrison, already weakened by ongoing system failures, found themselves facing an entire population that had suddenly remembered how to fight on Earth. Ambassador David Park worked in a facility that officially didn't exist. The Diplomatic Intelligence Center was hidden beneath the ruins of the old United Nations building in New York, its existence known only to the highest levels of Earth's government. David's job was to monitor communications throughout hegemony space and identify potential allies. His work was made possible by Earth's quantum isolation field, which somehow allowed them to observe galactic communications without being detected themselves. Ambassador, his analyst, Dr. Jennifer Liu, entered his office with a stack of decoded transmissions. The Zephyrian revolt has succeeded. Hegemony forces have been driven off-world. David smiled as he read the reports. That makes 17 successful revolts in the past month. How many species are we in contact with now? 43 have requested information about our quantum technology. 12 have asked for direct assistance. And sir, there's something else. We're receiving signals from inside hegemony space that suggest some of their artificial intelligence systems are becoming malware. David set down the reports and stared at the holographic map of the galaxy that dominated his office. Red dots showed hegemony strongholds, blue dots showed rebel-controlled worlds, and yellow dots showed areas where fighting was ongoing. The map was far more blue and yellow than red these days. Dr. Liu, prepare a comprehensive analysis for the President. I think it's time we considered opening limited communications with our new allies. In the depths of space, Supreme Chancellor Vorthok stood in the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The massive vessel was one of the few hegemony ships whose systems remained fully operational, protected by quantum shielding that his engineers had developed in response to the Sol virus. Report. Vorthok commanded his chief science officer, a tall, thin alien with multiple eyes. The situation continues to deteriorate. Supreme Chancellor, we have lost direct control of 47% of our territory. Another 20% is experiencing active revolts. Our quantum communication networks are operating at only 30% efficiency. Vorthok's obsidian skin rippled with anger. How is this possible? We controlled this galaxy for 3,000 years. One small world defies us, and our entire empire crumbles. Supreme Chancellor, his military advisor, General Crexton, stepped forward. Our analysts believe the humans discovered a fundamental weakness in our control systems. Their isolation field didn't just protect them from us. It exposed flaws in quantum entanglement networks that we never knew existed. Then we adapt, Vorthok growled. What are our options? General Crexton activated a holographic display. We are consolidating our remaining forces around core worlds. The outer territories are lost, but we can hold the inner systems. From there, we rebuild. That will take centuries, Vorthok observed. Yes, sir, but the alternative is the complete collapse of the hegemony. Vorthok stared at the tactical display, his burning eyes reflecting the lights of a galaxy at war. 3,000 years of conquest, undone by one species' refusal to surrender. He had underestimated humanity, and now the entire galaxy was paying the price. Back on Earth, President Marcus Chen met with his expanded council in the secure chamber beneath the Quantum Command Center. The room had grown to accommodate representatives from every major government and organization on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, President Chen began. Ambassador Park's latest intelligence reports confirm what we suspected. Our isolation has triggered the largest galactic revolt in recorded history. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, now director of the Quantum Research Division, activated a galactic map. The quantum disruption continues to spread. Each time the hegemony attempts to repair their networks, the instability grows worse. We estimate that their control systems are now operating at less than 30% efficiency. General Patricia Stone leaned forward. Mr. President, we have an opportunity here. While the hegemony is weakened, we could strike directly at their core worlds. With what forces? Admiral James Carter asked. We have perhaps 100 stealth ships capable of operating outside our solar system. The hegemony still has millions of vessels, even if many of them are experiencing problems. Captain Elena Vasquez spoke from her position at the military advisory table. Sir, I believe we're thinking about this wrong. We don't need to match the hegemony ship for ship. We need to accelerate the process that's already destroying them. Explain, Captain, President Chen requested. The quantum disruption is spreading because it's based on the same principles as their technology. What if we could amplify that effect? Instead of just protecting ourselves, we could actively destabilize their remaining networks. Dr. Sarah Mitchell's eyes lit up. Captain Vasquez is right. We could modify our isolation field generators to create quantum resonance weapons. Instead of just sealing our system, we could project instability directly into hegemony space. Engineer Lisa Rodriguez had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now she stood and activated her own holographic display. I've been working on exactly that. These are portable quantum disruptors based on our isolation field technology. One device could disable an entire hegemony fleet. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Earth didn't just have the means to defend itself. They had the power to actively liberate the galaxy. President Chen looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Are we talking about taking the offensive? We're talking about finishing what we started, Elena replied. 3 months ago, we chose isolation over surrender. But isolation was never the end goal. It was the beginning. We isolated ourselves to develop the technology we needed to free not just humanity, but every enslaved species in the galaxy. Ambassador David Park activated his communication display. Mr. President, I have 43 species requesting assistance. They're not asking us to fight their battles for them. They're asking us to share the knowledge that will let them win their own freedom. President Chen stood and walked to the viewport that showed Earth hanging in space beyond the mountain facility. The planet looked peaceful from this distance, but he knew that every continent buzzed with activity as humanity prepared for the next phase of their great endeavor. Dr. Mitchell, how long would it take to modify our quantum field generators to project destabilizing effects into hegemony space? 6 months for a working prototype, another 6 months for full deployment, and the portable disruptors that Engineer Rodriguez has developed. We could have the first units ready for field testing in 3 months, Lisa replied. President Chen turned back to his council. Then we have our timeline. In 6 months, we begin the liberation of the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as allies. We'll share our technology with any species that wants to be free. As the meeting ended and Earth's leaders dispersed to their various tasks, Alina remained behind with President Chen. They stood together looking out at the stars, both thinking about the enormity of what they were planning. Mr. President, Alina said quietly, when this started, we thought we were saving humanity, but we might actually be saving the entire galaxy. No, Captain, President Chen replied. We're not saving the galaxy. We're teaching it to save itself. There's a difference. Outside Earth's quantum barrier, the galaxy continued to burn with revolts and rebellions. The hegemony's 3,000-year reign was crumbling, undermined by a principle they had never understood, that freedom, once glimpsed, spreads faster than any weapon and burns brighter than any star. Earth had closed its gates to the Empire, but in doing so, it had opened the door to a new age of galactic independence. The stars themselves seemed to tremble with anticipation of what was coming next.